The world did not wake up to breaking news. It woke up to sirens, to shaky phone videos, to fire tearing across the night sky in places people once called untouchable. And now the question echoing from Washington to Tehran, from London to Moscow, from Pyongyang to the Gulf is terrifyingly simple. How close are we to something that cannot be undone? By the way, welcome to Celebrity Rap Life, where the spotlight never fades. Comebacks are built from chaos, and every headline tells a deeper story. Like, subscribe, and stay locked in, because the story is about to unfold. This is not just another political standoff. This is a chain reaction, a war of warnings, retaliations, alliances, and nuclear shadows. And at the center stands President Donald Trump and the Islamic Republic of Iran, locked in a confrontation that has pulled in global powers and shaken cities that once felt safe from the front line. The tension between the United States and Iran has never been casual. It has always been layered with history, oil, ideology, and power. But under President Donald Trump, the tone shifted dramatically. His administration walked away from the Iran nuclear deal years ago, reimposed crushing sanctions, and framed Tehran as the single greatest destabilizing force in the Middle East. For Iran's leadership, that decision was not just policy, it was humiliation. What followed was a spiral. Iran ramped up its regional posture. Proxies grew bolder. Shipping routes became tense corridors of suspicion. Then came the strikes, precision attacks blamed on Iranian-backed groups, retaliatory air operations, drone footage that spread across social media before governments could even confirm what happened. Dubai, once marketed as the playground of the future, suddenly appeared in global headlines tied to missile alerts. The United Arab Emirates found itself reinforcing air defenses, coordinating closely with Washington, and navigating a delicate balance between economic stability and regional security. The idea that Gulf financial hubs could become indirect targets sent shockwaves through investors and residents alike. In neighboring Qatar, officials scrambled to clarify reports after explosions were heard near sensitive areas. Doha has long hosted major foreign military installations, including American forces. Any escalation near its borders instantly becomes international. The region that once prided itself on diplomacy now felt the ground shift beneath it. And then the United Kingdom stepped forward. The United Kingdom, citing security obligations and alliance commitments, increased its naval presence and coordinated intelligence with Washington. British officials framed their involvement as defensive and stabilizing, but Tehran viewed it differently. From Iran's perspective, Western powers were tightening a noose. Inside Tehran, the response was defiant. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei warned that foreign interference would not be unanswered. Iranian state media amplified images of missile drills and underground facilities. The message was clear: Iran would not be intimidated. Across the Atlantic, President Trump addressed supporters and critics with the same blunt force language that has defined his political brand. He insisted that strength prevents war, that pressure forces negotiation, that weakness invites chaos. His base cheered the posture of dominance. His critics warned that dominance without diplomacy becomes disaster. But the global stage does not end with Washington and Tehran. In Moscow, President Vladimir Putin weighed in carefully but unmistakably. Russia has strategic ties with Iran, particularly in Syria and energy coordination. Putin called for restraint publicly, yet criticized Western military expansions near Russian interests. Analysts saw a familiar pattern: Moscow positioning itself as both mediator and power broker, ready to benefit from Western distraction. Meanwhile, in Pyongyang, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un delivered statements condemning what he described as American aggression. North Korea's involvement is less about immediate military participation and more about symbolism and leverage. Kim understands that when Washington is entangled elsewhere, its strategic focus is divided. His rhetoric signals solidarity with Iran and challenges to U.S. influence. This is where the fear intensifies, because when major powers begin aligning rhetorically, even if not formally, the possibility of a wider confrontation grows. The Middle East has always been a chessboard, but now the pieces are nuclear-capable states. Energy markets reacted first. Oil prices spiked on rumors alone. Traders know that the Strait of Hormuz remains one of the most critical arteries for global supply. Any threat to that narrow passage could ripple into gas stations from Lagos to London. Families who have never studied Middle Eastern politics would feel it instantly at the pump. Military analysts began mapping worst-case scenarios: limited air exchanges, cyber warfare targeting infrastructure, proxy battles escalating in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, and in the darkest projections, miscalculation leading to direct confrontation between superpowers. Diplomats worked behind the scenes, back channels activated, European envoys shuttled between capitals. The hope is always the same: de-escalate before pride locks leaders into irreversible paths. But pride is powerful. President Trump's political identity is deeply tied to projecting strength. Iranian leadership's legitimacy is tied to resisting Western pressure. Putin's strategic advantage often lies in exploiting Western division. Kim Jong-un thrives on spectacle and unpredictability. Each leader is playing to domestic audiences as much as to each other. In the streets of Tehran, some citizens express anger at sanctions that have squeezed everyday life. In parts of America, supporters demand a firm stance against what they view as hostile regimes. In London, policymakers debate the cost of deeper involvement. In Moscow, strategists analyze how instability shifts global power balances. In Pyongyang, state media frames events as proof of American recklessness. And then there's the digital battlefield: cyber units probing power grids, disinformation campaigns flooding social feeds, narratives crafted to inflame fear or shape perception. Modern war rarely begins with boots on the ground. It begins with code, signals, and influence. The bombings reported in parts of the Gulf, whether confirmed, exaggerated, or misattributed, have already achieved one thing: they have shattered the illusion of distance. Cities built on tourism and trade now discuss missile defense systems in everyday conversation. The United Kingdom's involvement adds NATO gravity to the equation. While not every NATO member may rush into direct combat, alliance dynamics complicate every move. A strike on a British asset is no longer bilateral. It becomes collective. Russia's position remains calculated. Putin does not appear eager for direct war with the West, but he benefits from tension that weakens American focus in Eastern Europe. North Korea's statements may seem distant geographically, yet they remind Washington that multiple flashpoints exist simultaneously. What makes this moment uniquely dangerous is speed. In previous eras, communication delays allowed tempers to cool. Today, a drone strike can be live streamed. A presidential statement can move markets in seconds. Escalation can outpace reflection. Yet history also shows that brinkmanship sometimes leads to negotiation. The Cold War survived countless near misses because channels remained open. The question now is whether those channels remain trusted. President Trump has shown willingness to pivot from threats to talks. Iran has signaled openness to negotiation under certain conditions. Russia positions itself as mediator when convenient. The United Kingdom emphasizes stability. Even North Korea has oscillated between missile launches and summit diplomacy. The coming weeks will test whether this is theater of power or prelude to something catastrophic. Military hardware can be mobilized quickly. Rebuilding trust cannot. Families across the Gulf watch the skies. Soldiers stand on alert. Diplomats whisper in corridors. Investors monitor oil charts. And ordinary people across continents hope that strong words remain only words. Because once the first irreversible strike lands, alliances harden, retaliation becomes obligation, and leaders lose room to maneuver. This is not just about Trump and Iran. It's about how global power is exercised in an era where regional conflict can become global in hours. It's about whether pride outweighs pragmatism. It's about whether deterrence still works in a multipolar world. The sirens that woke the world may yet fade into memory as another close call, or they may be remembered as the warning before a larger storm. For now, the world waits, watching Washington, watching Tehran, watching London, Moscow, and Pyongyang, hoping that strategy prevails over ego, hoping that the next headline is about talks, not targets. Because in a world armed with missiles, drones, cyber weapons, and nuclear capabilities, restraint is not weakness, it's survival. Welcome to the culture. Hit subscribe, stay curious, and never stop listening.